In a forest, two boys are seen facing a green monster and are doing an awful job at it. It's so devastating to watch that you'd think their green opponent is the Hulk, but rather, it's a little midi-sized goblin. The battle is more about them tripping on grass and rolling over themselves than actually fighting. To top it all, another one of their teammates nearly shoots them with a badly aimed arrow. Also, the witch in their midst is not left out of the uselessness, as the goblin ambushes her before she completes the spell. It's outstanding that 6 of these guys together can't take down one green bug, known to be the weakest monster in the realm. It suddenly becomes a fight of life and death facing a goblin that anyone could squash with their bare hands. Before we go further, let me take you back to the origin and how these weaklings ended up here. Episode 1. It all begins in a tower, where a group of individuals have awakened from darkness and are plunged into a world that is unfamiliar to them. Nobody knows how they got there or why they got there, and more importantly, the only information they remember is their name. Like when Haruhiro remembers having a cell phone but has no idea what a cell phone is. They're taken under the wing of Bree, chief of the volunteer soldier squad, who offers them a token of 10 coins per person if they become volunteer soldier trainees. Bree gives a heads up that afterward, they will have to think for themselves, fight for themselves, and survive for themselves. One crazy thing Bree assures them is that they will die, so everyone is to do their best to survive. Among the group, there is one arrogant dude, revealed to be Renji. He not only challenges Bree on their first encounter, he also gathers a team of the strongest guys while leaving the weaker guys to their fate. Personally, I feel he left them to rot. The volunteer soldier trainee is divided into 2 groups. 1. The Borderland Brigade that is responsible for handling monsters and beasts on the border of Grimgar. 2. The regular army that protected the turf. Renji's team has grown so much, leading them into the Borderlands to defeat monsters and then swap them to get spoils. Meanwhile, Haruhiro's team, after going about with guild registrations, has 2 coins left to their names. Also, Haruhiro joins the Thief Guild, and it turns out that he's not only terrible at fighting, he's also terrible at stealing. Haruhiro has a woman, Barbara, choking him with her massive watermelons when she tackles him, which is a good way to die in my opinion. Barbara ends up becoming his teacher, a rather attractive one. After guild registrations, the team now consists of Ranta, the Dark Knight, Monato, the priest and healer, Moguzu, the warrior, Yume the hunter, Shiharu the mage, and Haruhiro the thief. In the end, it is revealed that the reason they went after the goblins was because they were broke and hungry. Episode 2. One reckless move from Ranta, who runs into battle yelling like a pregnant horse, cost them the mission by alerting the goblins. So much for a surprise attack, and so much for Ranta's big mouth, he turns out to be the most useless member of the team. Shiharu can't even recite her incantations. She talks more about shooting in a straight line. Well, at least she's got huge tits, so she's safe. Moguzo and Monato prove to be the only ones capable of landing the first hit, while Ranta becomes the cheerleader of the fight. In the end, Haruhiro takes a sword through his shoulder, and the scaredy cat Ranta shockingly kills the goblin with a series of gruesome stabs. After the fight, they trade the relics gotten from the goblin for some coins, and disband for the day to enjoy the rest of the evening by shopping, resetting, and adapting. That night, Haruhiro worries about their survival in this realm. It turns out all that work today only had 18 copper coins for a group of 6. He was thinking deeply about things, but the realest of them all, Ranta, was more worried about how he'd peek at the girls while they took their baths. Episode 3. For Ranta's mistake, the rest of the boys are caught in his web of trouble, and they issue their apologies to the girls. Ranta, on the other end, is not remorseful and refuses to yield. In his words, it was an accident, an unfortunate yet blissful moment. They might not have their past memories, yet anyone could easily deduce that Ranta was a pervert in his former life, despite the many times he claims to be unattracted to the size of Yume's dry cherry seeds for bosoms. As time goes on, life begins to get shitty for the team. None of them smile anymore. Their survival remains uncertain. Additionally, they've gone weeks without a kill. It gets so bad that even the clothes they wear have worn out, as they are unable to afford new ones, especially new underwear. Rumor has it that Moguzo happily wears his armor without underwear, but that remains a mystery yet to be solved. Along the way, Haruhiro realizes he might just be a worse degenerate than Ranta when he finds himself staring at Shiharu's thighs while she kneels to wash her clothing. Over time, the team tries a new approach to their survival by sketching a map and strategically attacking sleeping goblins or stray groups that have been isolated. In the end, they're at least able to afford the basic things they need, like food and clothes. Haruhiro also shows appreciation to Minato for leading the team through a rough patch. Episode 4. Also, it is revealed that there's an unspoken romance brewing between Minato and Shiharu. As time goes by, the team is proven to be not so useless in battle. After learning new skills and tricks from their various guilds, they are seen landing actual punches on the goblins. Yume doesn't attempt to shoot her teammates in the head anymore. Shiharu can now cast spells that hit their target. Ranta, the wannabe Dark Knight, has successfully summoned some demons that aid him in a fight. After achieving their goal of 3 goblins for the day, they sit around to rest when Minato gives a shout out to everyone for their good work, except Haruhiro. Haruhiro is curious as to what Minato thinks of him, but before he's able to ask, something unfortunate happens. Suddenly, they're ambushed by goblins, not the puny ones. This time around, it's a huge class. They are luckily able to get away. However, Minato falls to the floor after sustaining an arrow from the goblins. The priest is unable to heal himself, and just when he is taken to his guild, he is pronounced dead. The whole team is devastated at this, including a distraught Shiharu, as they cremate his body to prevent him from becoming walking dead. Episode 5. Monato's death gives a huge blow to the team, and even careless Ranta wishes to leave. To convince Ranta to return, Haruhiro and Moguzo join him at a wine hut, where Ranta is seen drinking himself to nothing. Haruhiro and Ranta face each other, pointing blame and yelling when Moguzo angrily tells both of them to zip it. While they consider their next step, they are approached by Kikawa, one of the guys who awakens in the tower with them. After hearing of Monato's death, he informs them that priests are known to have a high fatality rate because their healing ability is a natural threat to enemies. He also gives them the option to find a replacement for Minato. The team is introduced to the new priest through Kikawa, and unfortunately, Mary is just as Kikawa described her to be. She's difficult to converse with, stubborn, and doesn't want to help during a fight because she thinks that priests are healers only. For Ranta to openly express his dislike for a girl, she's got to be doing a lot. Above all, she's a pain in Ranta's ass. The guys gather for another drink at the wine hut to expel their depression with the group when Renji arrives. From Renji's attire alone, you can tell he has risen in the ranks and has become a full-fledged volunteer soldier. He gifts the guys a gold coin on the occasion of Monato's demise, and Haruhiro stands up for the team by returning the coin, as it was something Minato wouldn't stand for. That evening, Yume expressed her loneliness since Monato's death. Haruhiro apologizes that the boys shut the girls out, and both of them proceed to cry in each other's arms. Episode 6. The evening ends with a blissful reunion between the team, and they all sit together to eat like old times. Ranta also considers giving Mary a chance to fall in love with him. After all, what girl could resist his charms? But I think the proper answer is that every girl can. The next day, the girls extend a hand to Mary to try to become her friend, but as usual, she gives cold responses. Thankfully, this time around, she agrees to heal them after a battle. Later on, the guys invite the girls to have drinks with them at the wine hut, and they also unexpectedly bump into Mary, who gives the group a cold shoulder. It becomes clear that Monato's last words to Haruhiro were him handing over the leadership. But then again, cracking up Mary's attitude is more difficult than it seems. Haruhiro realizes that to get her acceptance, he will have to know the reason for her attitude. He ends up speaking with Orion, who is seen with Mary at the wine hut. Among Orion's party is one of Mary's former comrades. He reveals that Mary changed after she blamed herself for the deaths of 3 former comrades. To sum it up, they died after carelessly walking into a dangerous mine where Mary exhausted every magic she had until there was none. Episode 7. Ever since that night, Mary has become an empty shell, moving from one party to another. Orion advises them to move on from losing Minato, but hold on to his memories, as it would be a push for them to stay alive. Afterward, Ranta changes his decision again and realizes he wasn't going to take Mary's bullshit attitude all because she can't get over her trauma. With Ranta's frustrated opinion, Haruhiro realizes that Mary is not the only one he has to understand, but Ranta as well. On a very fine day, Haruhiro addresses the issue. He reveals to Mary their share of pain after losing their priest, who was everything to them, and he also shares their regret for not going the extra mile to save Minato. In the end, they all assure her that she's a friend and that she is welcome on their team. This comes as a shock to Mary. However, she doesn't swing in immediately. As time goes on, the team does a series of successful fights together, and the guys at the wine hut have now labeled them as the Goblin Slayers. Fortunately, they are not only able to get Mary to join their hangouts, they are also able to afford new equipment. Episode 8. After a series of careful scouting and information collection efforts, the team has finally found the goblin group responsible for the ambush that ended Monoto's life. Now that Mary shows some cooperation and her attitude is a bit under control, they make plans to go in for revenge and recover Haruhiro's dagger. They raid the goblin hideout, skillfully slaying every goblin that comes their way. Not gonna lie, this was a mind-blowing execution of their attack compared to the first episode. But then again, something unpredictable happens. Mary gets shot by an arrow, in the same location where Monoto was shot, and it all seemed like deja vu. Thankfully, it's a mere scratch for her, and Haruhiro deals the final blow to the goblin responsible for shooting their friend. In the end, they pay another tribute to Monoto's resting place. They give him a badge that signals that he is no longer a volunteer soldier trainee, but a part of the real volunteer soldiers, just like them. Episode 9. After the recent events and hard work, the team all decide that a day off was proper. Moguzo, the chef on the team, uses his day off to bake some bread in the morning and has plans to maintain his armor later. Haruhiro finds Shiharu on the bridge where she and Monoto usually meet, and she's also feeding the birds just like Monoto did. Later on, Haruhiro joins Mary in the lobby of her new lodge, having a day off reset, and he is stunned to wits at her off-uniform appearance. Meanwhile, Ranta, who went fishing, catches a glimpse of his flat-chested nemesis having a mountain climb and is also stunned to wits. The team ends their day off in the wine hut, and after hearing a story about strange goblins on their hunting grounds, they decide it's time to change locations, and their next target is Cyrene Mine, which is revealed to be the same place Mary lost her comrades. Mary exits the meeting, and when Haruhiro goes after her, she reveals to him that she might not be able to keep her composure if she goes into that mine. However, if she has to go into the mine, she would like to overcome it with them by her side, because they refer to her as a friend. After a brief training session with Barbara that had him choking between her thighs, the team set out for Cyrene's. Episode 10. This time around, the team has graduated from fighting goblins and is now going head-to-head with kobolds that have seized the mine. Ranta even goes ahead to label one of the kobolds his rival just because it turns out to be too difficult for him to beat. After the first round of kobolds, they extract the talisman from them to trade for coins. As they go to the next level of the mine, Mary gives directions on what to expect, as she has been through the mines a lot of times with her former party. That night, Haruhiro feels it's the right time to have the discussion with Ranta about his overly confident attitude and his I can do it all attitude. It seems Ranta's issue is a lot more difficult than Mary's. He also has a work-alone complex despite being on a team. In the end, the purpose of this conversation was so Haruhiro could understand him. However, all of that ends up futile as Ranta continues his careless acts when he's next to go into the mine. Also, there's the arrival of the same beast responsible for killing Mary's comrades, and this gives her a mini panic attack. Episode 11. As they progress, they get to the 5th level of the mine, where Mary's comrades breathe their last. They successfully sneak through and get to the temple the kobolds never visit. But then again, they are ambushed by the walking dead corpses of Mary's comrades. Their bodies have been cursed because they were not cremated after death. While the fight goes on, for the first time, Mary takes the front line in a battle and she uses her powers to dispel the undead king's magic on her comrades. Before they disappear completely, we see a glimpse of their human selves, and Mary gets the opportunity to have her last encounter with them. Mary thanks the team for their help while the team talks about how great Mary's former comrades were. Just then, there's a crash at their party with the appearance of Black Spots, the leader of the kobold responsible for killing Mary's comrades. The beast not only strikes with brute force, but he also calls for backup, and soon this level of the mine is flooded with kobolds. The team manages to make it out except for Ranta, who stays back after saving Haruhiro. Haru is left to think about the next plan. Taking the team back to save Ranta would cost their lives, but he couldn't leave Ranta behind, Now he has to face what it truly means to become a leader. Episode 12. Meanwhile, Ranta has made it out of the 5th level. Shocking, but it seems Haruhiro has sensed his fighting spirit, and that was the reason he left him behind. With this close death experience, Ranta not only reveals the demon his Dark Knight powers give him, but he also wishes he could have a fondle of Yume's flat chest before he dies. At the brink of impact from Spots, his team arrives just in time to save him. When they reunite, Ranta becomes emotional and nearly spills how glad he is to see them again. However, gang. He goes cold again, but everyone has pretty much accepted that this is who he is. When they think they are on their way home, the unrelentless beast appears again and blocks their only path home. Haruhiro takes it upon himself to stay behind and stall the monster so the team can escape. This has left him drastically injured from the fall and left him in a one-on-one match against the beast. Thanks to the special training he did with Barbara, he instinctively deduces a way to fight the beast by blinding its second eye and breaking its sword in such a way that the monster falls onto its sword, killing it. After this, Haruhiro loses consciousness, but the next time he opens his eyes, he sees a smiling Mary. For killing the beast, they are awarded 30 gold coins, and their popularity spreads beyond the wine hut. From Goblin Slayer to Beast Slayer, Renji also tenders an apology for his insensitive act after Monato's death. In the end, Haruhiro also gets to visit Monato's grave and talk about his victories as a leader. I hope you enjoy this recap as much as I did. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and follow this page for more content like this.